Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto, Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the United States of America. And good morning to the entire world receiving our signals via the magic of the internet created by we the people of the United States, not the billionaires. Of course, those are the ones who have usurped its power. And we are here to take it back. Welcome, Lunar Echoes 87 in the chat. You're the first one in the chat. Anyway, before we go any further, let's get busy and go to the geniuses, los genios, the people who make it happen in the studio. Good morning, El Señor Howard Reynolds and Jacques Van Beba.
Oh, those heinous geniuses. Here we are. It is Tuesday morning at the radio, the 18th of March, 2025. Jack, did you go and get that internet back from those billionaires?
Well, no, not yet.
I told you to do that yesterday.
Well, I didn't have enough guns.
Oh, well, darn it. I have a rant today, and I think this is very important to point out.
Rant on.
Over the weekend, some dangerous people were deported to, was it Venezuela?
Salvador, okay. El Salvador. Okay, some dangerous people claiming they're dangerous people. Now, we don't really have any proof of that. Okay, so they're deported. Now, a judge had issued a order to stop that information, to stop that from happening. And it seems like they're not sure, because we're not sure yet, what was disobeyed. Did he disobey a court order? Did this really happen? And that's not just the most important part. Well, it is one of the most important parts, but the other important part is the MAGAs are going, oh my God, you wanted us to keep these criminals in the United States. No, that's not the point. The point is you have to follow court orders. Now, if you defied a court order, you will be held in contempt of court. And that is dangerous. If you went ahead and did it anyway, you're in contempt of court. And these judges can make these orders stick. So let's see what happens here. The point of the matter is, did Trump disobey a court order by doing this anyway? I don't really care if dangerous people were deported. Good, if they were truly dangerous. But you don't defy court orders, ever. The president is not above the law. And this court had better make sure he knows he's not above the law if he did this. Because then, what's next? What court order are you going to ignore next and do whatever you want to? You can't do this as a president. This is not presidential. And there's my rant for the day. I agree 100% with your rant, my dear brother. I agree with your rant. And yes, he defied the order. It is said that there was still a plane on the ground after the order was issued, and it took off anyway. So, yep, that's what they did. But anyway,
he defied a court order.
Yes, he did.
There you go.
And now the interesting thing is the court is trying to get specific information right now. The problem is the court doesn't have an army to go ahead and arrest the president. The court has to leave that for the executive to handle. And guess who the executive is? Donald Trump. A constitutional crisis. Anyway, Jack Van Bever, what's our wisdom of the morning, sir?
It's kind of goes along with what y'all were talking about. Howard's rant was. And it was something that happened to me this weekend. But it was something Neil Aquino said. Authoritarian rule needs an institution to project authority from. I experienced this firsthand from a sheriff's officer, no doubt on a training exercise. Get this. really get this. They stopped me for walking my dog on the wrong side of the street. My dog doesn't know what side of the street is, So he goes about his business of checking his P-mail at various locations. And, this is crazy. It just sounds crazy that they would stop a person for walking their dog on the wrong side of the road in Baycliff.
I have a question. I didn't know there was I didn't know there was a wrong side for a walker to walk on a road. I didn't know that. Is there a wrong side?
Well, they've been doing this for a while. They want you to, when you're walking, to walk into traffic, but when you're riding, you ride with the traffic.
Is that a law?
I don't know. That's what they claimed. Actually, it's more a safety concern. It's why they did it, but it felt more like intimidation. It really felt more like intimidation. And I knew if I was protesting, but I knew if I didn't comply, they'd burn me down.
Did they ask you for ID and all of that as you were walking?
Yes, I gave them my ID. Yeah. Amazing. They do that as a way of profiling the poor people in Baycliff.
Right.
If they got anything on them, then they pick them up.
That is quite interesting. And I don't know. I think that is something that should be taken further, to put it bluntly. Anything else, my brother?
Well, I just didn't know I was going to have to fear the police while I'm walking my dog, but that's what authoritarianism does. And that's what the intimidation does.
And that's what it feels like. Imagine that you said it actually seemed like a training mission, because you told me about this yesterday, I recall, and you said it was evident that the person riding in the car with the other cop was a trainee, and he wanted, so that is shameful. She was a trainee. Yeah, she was a trainee. But anyhow, thank you for that. Jack, that's a darn shame. Want to also welcome into the house, into our chat, Paul Fleming from Atlanta, Georgia. And of course, our wonderful Joanne, our beautiful Joanne from Los Angeles, California, who gets up early in the morning to listen to Politics Done Right as well. Thank you so kindly, Joe, for listening to both our 6 o'clock and our 3 o'clock program. And I saw somebody else in there. Sometimes my eyes goes crazy. Anyway, folks, I want to thank you guys for listening. We have a lot to talk about. Mucho. But look, I know a lot of people are feeling distressed right now. We have Schumer, who went ahead without a fight, without extracting anything for the 7 Democratic votes or 8 Democratic votes that were needed to pass the CR. He gave up all possibilities of any kind of leverage, which means they ran ramshot over the country. I'm not even going to say they ran ramshot over Democrats. They ran ramshot over the country, because now what they've done is they've given Donald Trump power that's actually codified, which means power written in law. Schumer, when he went out there, he made the comment and said, well, that it would have been worse if we had a shutdown. No, it wouldn't have been worse if we had a shutdown, because business would have started to crater, and they would have told Trump, hey, look, guy, I'm sorry. The economy is falling apart. You've got to make a deal to open it up. Because right now what they did is they gave Donald Trump more power personally with Doge and Elon Musk, without anything to protect the American people. Later on, I'm going to play a little Bernie, if I get the time, a little 5-minute segment that Bernie had to say. But for now, since folks are already on the phone, let's go ahead and go to Johnny. Come on in, Johnny.
It was really angering to hear what happened to Magic Jack. And talking to him before I talked to you, he shared with me that this happened to him 10 years ago as well. And he doesn't think it's to do with the fact that he's a volunteer at KPFT. He says that they've done this to other of his neighbors also. So now, one more thing we got to think about. In addition to paying the Social Security office $41 to get a hard copy of your record, just in case something happens in the not-too-distant future because of the Dodge guy, the Doge or Dodge or whatever. It's all a Dodge. But I'm calling because of something that Captain Reynolds' rep said. You know, he's right. And at the same time, we're also wrong on this. How do I mean? When I hear about these judicial orders that were ignored by Donald Trump and his law enforcement, it's like heads I win, tails you lose situation. So what do we mean by that? When they don't like if Barack Obama says to his Justice Department something, the Justice Department may or may not listen to what Barack Obama has to say. And we've seen evidence of this over and over and over again. Law enforcement, as you and I both know, they tend to skew to the right. There are more right-wing law enforcement than there are lefties. And among the righties, now we've seen more and more of an infiltration of white nationalists in both military and law enforcement. So when we get mad and cry or scream, hey, you need to be abiding by judges' orders, at some point in a not-too-distant future, something will happen where they will say, hey, they'll say to us, hey, you need to follow what the judge says because of something that a right-wing judge has done, which we know is blatantly unconstitutional. You see, they win either way. Heads they win, tails we lose. So how do we get around this outside of expelling Donald Trump from office? You don't. We got to remove them from office. And we got to tell Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, take a hike. You're expired milk. You're ruining the country. That's all I have to say.
Johnny, I mean, I think a lot of folks don't understand. I think I have our good friend Paul Fleming in the chat who says, well, Schumer thought about it like this. We can agree to this stopgap or give Trump and Elon total power to decide. Let's see. Paul Fleming, the actual number for the morning is 713-526-5738. 713-526-5738. I want to repeat it for Paul because Paul called on the number we actually have for the evening show. Let me repeat that number, Paul. 281. Hold on a second, Johnny. 713-526-5738 is the number. Go ahead. Continue, Johnny.
And then hit number 2. Don't forget that.
Yeah, and then hit number 2. Thank you. Appreciate you. But I think it's essential for us to understand that the options weren't good. Paul Fleming is correct. The options weren't good. But the better options would have been to allow the Republicans to shut the government down and let Trump do whatever he wanted to do as far as agencies are concerned, because he is doing it anyway. Last night, they went into an agency with the FBI. After the agency denied them access, they went to the FBI, who went to the agency with them. And after going to the agency with them, the agency called the D.C. police. When the D.C. police went over, the D.C. police told them, hey, guys, you got to let the Doge people in. The FBI is correct. Paul Fleming, Paul Fleming, the telephone number is 713-526-5738. I repeat, 713-526-5738. Anyway, anything else you want to add, Johnny?
I feel another migraine coming on, and I know I can't be the only one. All of America is going to wind up getting migraines of all this because the Democrats are not doing what we want them to do. We've got to physically remove them from office. That's what's come to. They won't leave. They're not helping. That's all I got to say. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Let's go to Bruce.
Good morning, Egberto.
Good morning, sir.
First thing I want to say is I want to thank you for the show yesterday. I learned a lot. Regarding Schumer and the Democrats, reminds me of something that happened on Christmas Day. I lived in a cul-de-sac, and I noticed my neighbor's little boy had gotten a pedal car. It was a little fire engine pedal car.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked out there, and the boy had hooked a rope up to his dog, I guess to pull him around the cul-de-sac. But I looked a little closer, and I saw that rope somehow must have slipped. It was around the dog's testicles. So I walked over there and said, "Son, why don't you let me take that rope and hook it to his collar? You can go a lot faster." He said, "Maybe, but I'd rather keep my siren." But anyway, Donald Trump is the little boy, and the oligarchs and Donald Trump are the little boy. The rope was the CR, and the doggy is us. And Schumer had a chance to cut the rope. When we whine, it hurts, so we're going to whine some. But all the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world do is say, "Look, all those liberals are whining. Trump's doing something right." So it doesn't accomplish anything. We have to cut the rope and spank the boy. I'm done.
Look, Bruce, I hear you. I agree with you. And, at some point we have to spine up. Spine up mean that we understand we're going to pay a price. But, no matter what, the price that we pay by not fighting is first of all, people continue to go as far as they can when there's no resistance. When there's resistance, at least they think about if I do this, what's the resistance going to be? That is just how humanity is in the aggregate. As far as the Trump administration, they push things as far as they can. They do it with the judges as they're doing right now. They do it with the Congress as they do it right now. They've completely the Republican Congress has completely capitulated to Trump. Even in the documents, even in the laws they passed, you brought up. No, I think it was our caller from Michigan that brought up what occurred with the Congress saying one day is forever. You remember, so that they don't have to check anything that Donald Trump does in the Congress. They've given up their powers now officially in writing. I mean, at some point, go ahead.
Can I say something about the police profiling? Back in the 70s, it was a lot worse. I had friends, and I was in my 20s. I had friends that had long hair and hippie vans, and they would get pulled over, and they would pull their paneling out of their doors and take their dang van apart looking for drugs, and there wouldn't be any. All right. And it happened so often they'd wind up either selling their van or cutting their hair. They just got tired of it. I got pulled over one time. I had long hair. Cop passed me going the other way, did a U-turn, pulled me over. I just bought a stereo set. It was still in the box with the receipt laying on the seat. And he's like, "Where'd you get the stereo?" And so I just bought it. "You have a receipt?" "Yes, sir." "You work?" "Yes, sir." "Where do you work?" "FMC. I have my badge here." Oh, okay. Well, have a nice day." And that was common. That kind of thing was common. So we have to watch out for that. But I'm going to shut up now.
Thank you, my brother. That is a prescient story. Thank you. You have a wonderful rest of your day, Bruce. Paul Fleming, if you are still listening, the number is, well, you are still listening. You just posted again. It is 713-526-5738 to call in. Then you hit extension 2. The number you call was the afternoon number for the program. Glenn Ryan is in the house. Before I go further, I want to point out that Glenn Ryan, I went to have some coffee with Glenn Ryan. You know, Glenn Ryan, the same Glenn Ryan that loves to give me a hard time in the chat, justifiably. And he did the coffee with Egberto, and we had a whole lot of fun, right, Glenn? But he's back in the chat, and he says, the Dems have no spine, and if you don't like it, then stop voting for them. The only leverage you have is your vote, and you gave it away up front. I think that one is directed to me. And then he says to Paul Fleming, exactly, they would have had to make these choices and take responsibility for it. Anyway, folks, keep the chat going. Here's what I want to do. I want to play this piece from that, and I want our MAGA listeners that are right now. We have quite a few MAGA listeners, actually a large percentage of MAGA listeners. I want you to listen to this piece in detail. And the truth of the matter is, I'd love for some of you to call and tell me your thoughts, because this is very, very important. We better, and this is directed to my MAGA brothers and sisters, we better all team up for America. And I mean that distinctly. We better team up for America. And by the way, Glenn says, no, Egberto, it is directed at all Dem voters, not just you. I love you too, brother. All right, let's go ahead and play our piece here. You know, Trump and MAGA has this one thing about owning the libs, and they think that if they inflict as much pain on libs, the people they consider libs or progressives or blue states or blue counties, whatever it is, they believe inflicting as much pain in them is what gives them pleasure. I know it sounds arcane, but it's what gives them pleasure. Well, it turns out, you know, when I was growing up, there was always this saying in our culture that if you are going to be digging a grave for somebody, you better dig too. But in the case with MAGA, if you're going to dig a grave, make sure it is right-sized for yourself. Because as it turns out, most of what you are doing to harm those people who have no malice or ill intent against you, you just hate them because Donald Trump and the right wing has told you to hate them. Well, you know what? In doing so, what they're doing is telling you, in hating them, what we're going to do is actually going to hurt you. So that grave that you're digging is not for the libs, it's for yourself. I want you to listen to Jen Psaki, who kind of breaks it down with what these guys are doing to themselves.
But I wanted to start tonight with what I kind of think is one of the unifying principles of this administration. And that is basically their myopic view on owning the libs. And by that, they mean doing anything they can to offend, humiliate, or destroy things that anyone left of Sean Hannity may possibly care about. I mean, Donald Trump visited the Kennedy Center for a board meeting today after seizing control of it and making himself the new chair. What a good use of time for a president. Lots of people perform there. They're not political, but to Trump, it was too woke and needed to be straightened out. So yes, to own the libs, Trump is basically destroying the Kennedy Center. People are refusing to perform there anymore. And he basically said so himself today.
We'll make it great again, but it is so much like what I'm witnessing in other places. We have open borders. We have men playing in women's sports. It's all the same thing. It's all the same mentality and thinking.
It's all the same mentality and thinking. The Kennedy Center, the culture wars, actual policy of any sort, it's all the same thinking to Trump. And it's exactly the same thinking when it comes to the way he and Elon Musk are gutting the federal government. I mean, take NOAA, which is the agency responsible for things like forecasting our weather and tracking climate trends and responding to extreme weather events. Most people accurately see it as an apolitical tool for knowing what the weather is going to be outside, which, hey, we all rely on. A place where a bunch of science nerds prepare for natural disasters. That's what happens in that building. But Project 2025 labeled it as, quote, one of the main drivers of the climate change alarm industry. Think about how absurd that statement is. This is an agency made up of scientists who are literally measuring and predicting weather patterns, some of which are caused by, yes, the climate crisis, and they're destroying that agency. That's the goal. That's front and center for the Trump team. That's what they're trying to do. Now, over the past few weeks, the Trump administration has slashed hundreds of NOAA staff, including people responsible for producing critical weather forecasts and maintaining radar systems, and they're not done. The agency is tasked with cutting an additional 1,000 jobs, which means 10% of its workforce. See, to Donald Trump and his buddy Elon Musk, NOAA is just another woke agency that stirs up climate hysteria. And so it's one of the agencies that has found itself in their crosshairs. But here's the thing. When devastating tornadoes swept across the country this week, it actually wasn't coastal Democrats in their path at all. It was states like Mississippi and Arkansas and Alabama and Missouri, states that would definitely not self-identify as woke in any way, and states that would definitely benefit from a fully operational and fully staffed and fully funded NOAA. What about FEMA, which provides essential tools for cleaning up and rebuilding after devastating storms, like the ones we also saw last week and this week? Trump and Elon Musk claim the agency is a political tool wielded by Democrats during disasters. I don't even know what they mean by that exactly. So guess what they've done? They've cut jobs there too. And Trump has even mused about shutting it down altogether. That's how they're owning the libs, I guess, right? I mean, that's their approach. But guess which states get the most recovery funding from FEMA and the Department of Housing and Urban Development? Well, states like Louisiana and Florida and Texas, not exactly target Democratic states, those ones typically. Notice the theme here? See, the things they've already done and things they're planning to do actually hurt red states more than blue states. They're trying to own the libs, but they're actually hurting Trump voters. The people they are hurting the most are in the very states that voted to put Trump in the White House. And we're seeing this everywhere, all the time. It's happening every day. They're hurting red states by working to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act, even though 80% of the investments are in Republican districts. They'll continue to hurt people who voted for them if they go after Social Security, which 1 in 5 Americans across every single state rely on. And they'll hurt lots of proud MAGA members if they go after Medicaid. In one Appalachian county in Kentucky, almost 90% of the residents in Harlan County voted for Trump, and almost half of them receive Medicaid. One woman relying on a Medicaid-funded treatment program for addiction told the Washington Post, if it were to go away today, I would be homeless tomorrow. I would lose everything, all my counseling, all my treatment. If Trump takes the things that they're saying, it's going to be devastation for Eastern Kentucky for sure. And you don't have to just to take her word, or my word for that matter, for it. Here's Steve Bannon.
A lot of MAGAs on Medicaid. I'm telling you, if you don't think so, you are dead wrong. Medicaid is going to be a complicated one. Just can't take a Medex to it, although I would love to.
The point is that guy is not exactly known for his empathy. He's not really a super empathetic guy, but he understands the political reality of Medicaid and other issues too. Trump is also hurting red states with his beloved tariffs. He loves those tariffs. According to New York Times analysis, nearly 8 million Americans work in industries targeted by tariffs, and the majority are Trump voters. The jobs that could be hit by retaliation are especially concentrated in pockets of the upper Midwest, South and Southeast, including many rural parts of the county that are responsible for producing agricultural goods. And again, don't take my word for it or their word for it. Here's Mike Pence.
The truth is, when it comes to tariffs, the importer here in the United States pays the tariff. The foreign country doesn't pay the tariff. More often than not, passes along the increased costs on that product to the consumer. Too often I hear the administration talking about broad-based unilateral tariffs that I think will ultimately work against American jobs, American families, and American business.
There you heard it, Mike Pence. See, what's becoming increasingly clear is that in this broad effort to own the libs, Donald Trump is actually owning his own voters. You wonder why Republicans don't want to hold town meetings out there.
So yes, it seems like what Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and all these others are doing, instead of really dramatically affecting the libs, the progressives, it's really going to harm MAGA, rural people, more than anything else. Sometimes, again, your hate can cause you to do all the wrong things. Your hate from putting a woman in office, your hate from putting a woman of color in office, because that hate has caused you to do something you know was best for you, but you chose otherwise, and now we've made the entire country to pay the price, but specifically you that voted this thug into office more so than anyone else. What gives? Well, I suggest right now we all work together to ensure that these guys are unable to fulfill the wishes that you thought was actually going to affect the other and not you. Exactly right. You thought it was going to affect the other, but it actually is going to affect you more than anyone else. I want to welcome Gayla. There are a lot of folks in the Substack as well. Gayla Kunis said she's from Evans, Georgia, and she loves your show and proud to help support politics done right. Thank you, sister. Let's see what else have we got here. Paul Fleming is on the line. Let's go to Paul Fleming, line numero uno. Thank you, Paul, for holding on.
Good morning, brother. How are you?
I am doing fine. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Just eating my chocolate muffin and drinking my coffee.
Well, at least you're an hour ahead of us, brother. You're an hour ahead of us, so you're okay.
Well, I agree with you typically in the high 90 percentiles, but we're really in a catch-22 when it comes to Chuck Schumer, because my first knee-jerk reaction was with you. Mm-hmm. But then when you sit down and really think about it, when you shut the government down, who's in charge?
The president.
Okay. Then he gets to decide what to shut down in government. Yeah, it'll hurt the people, but it'll hurt the immediate people even more. It'll hurt those government workers, thousands of them. And he gets to decide what to do across this country. And the only thing that can stop him is what? The judicial system. And they move so slowly. That's why that plane was able to get away without knowing, because when you do things in the dark and it comes to the light, typically it's too late. It's already done. So I don't like what Schumer did, but we're in a catch-20. It's hard to decide which way to go. So I'll give him a pass on this one, but the next one, then we'll have to pull back, because at least now we're understanding what they're trying to do. Hopefully they'll get together and make a strategic thing together versus he's saying, okay, I don't support the shutdown, and then supports the shutdown, because he's caught in the catch-20. And sometimes we can't really sit back and think of things when it happens in the moment.
Let me give you first of all, thanks for that point of view. Okay, now let me tell you where my point of view comes from, and I think I didn't say it in the video that I just played, but I did a video yesterday with that featured Jasmine Crockett, and let me tell you where I'm coming from. First of all, there's nothing incorrect on what you're saying, and it could be that if we shut the government down, that Donald Trump is such an evil one that he just disregards everybody, including the business sector. I doubt that he would ignore the business sector in that regard, even though the tariff mechanism maybe that doesn't bode quite well for what I just said. But I think there is something else with the tariffs. But here's what I mean, Paul. First of all, the big mistake started on January 20th. I think on the 20th, all Democrats should have been, Democratic senators specifically, should make it clear that they weren't going to support any CR that wasn't vanilla. In other words, any clean CR that didn't have any ideological points. If we're not going to get to a bill, no CR would be supported. And when I say that, I meant not telling Trump that, but doing what Bernie and AOC are doing right now, going into the population and letting them know what's going on. In other words, the problem that everybody has with Democrats right now is they see no fight. We see Bernie and these guys starting to do it, and we see the population starting to respond. But for the CR, it was too little, too late. What the CR did was codified within that CR that the Congress would withhold any, and I'm saying it loosely, but withhold anything that Donald Trump does. Whatever he does, that's what the CR does. I know you talk about he's in charge with a shutdown. Yeah, he's in charge with a shutdown, but he will be able, if it hits the business sector, they may force him to open. And if he opens without the power of that, what's codified by the CR, well, it's just open again. So, I mean, I hear the point that you're, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
But when you say it's the business sector, what really hurts them harder than the tariffs? What can you say that really? What else would he really do to hurt the business sector besides the tariffs?
Well, if you have a shutdown,
let me tell what else he could do to the business. The shutdown, yes, is gonna hurt them. And is he really gonna respond, or is he gonna make them knee?
Look, you're right. Look, we don't know. We don't know. But the thing about it is, if it gets bad enough, everybody responds to the corporate sector. Ultimately, I mean, even if we're an oligarchy, which we are pretty darn close to, everybody responds to the oligarchy in the long run, because the oligarchy is, in fact, the government. In fact, my contention is that Chuck Schumer got, and like I tell you guys, everything I talk is factual, and when I'm not factual and just assuming or surmising, I'll let you know. I'm surmising here that
right. And I'll be real quick, because I know you have other callers on the phone.
Yes.
My wife and I are poker players in ours. Mm-hmm. We play poker in ruby red areas, and they're happy with bending the knee. They just, they're so happy right now. Like, I had one approach me wanting to talk about Elon Musk, but then I shut her down with all the facts, and all she could do is just walk away. But I still speak to them because, I'm a godly person. I'm a spiritual person. So, I still treat people all the same. But the very next weekend, I said hello. Her husband spoke, but she did not. So, because I told her, you're only listening to one radio station. You're only listening to one or two television stations. But I listen to all of them. That gives me perspective.
I find it surprising. Paul, sorry, I just interrupted for this reason. I find it surprising that it was the woman who didn't talk and the husband who spoke. That is quite telling right there, given especially what the administration has done for women's policies. But we can talk about this another time. Give us a shout out in the afternoon show, Paul. You usually give us a lot of good information there. The other thing is that I am glad to hear what you just said. When you said you continue to engage, thank you. I think that's what all of us who have the stomach to do it should continue to do, because
we have to live together. I mean, we have to live together.
Exactly.
That's the whole thing about it is, like, where are you going to go? You're just going to stay in your house?
Thank you.
I got to go to the store.
And the good thing, Paul, that you did as well is, believe it or not.
The reason why I called the first number is because on your picture it has that number. That's why I called that number.
I got to fix that. You're absolutely correct, sir. You're absolutely correct. But here's one other thing, Paul.
I have a morning time picture and an evening time picture.
I know. I got to fix it. You see, you're throwing more work on me. I got to do it. But Paul, listen, one other thing that I want to tell you. It's not just that we have to live with them. That's not true, because these are our friends and brothers and sisters. We have to tell ourselves
Absolutely.
that. We have to tell ourselves that. But the other thing is that when you speak, seeds are planted, and at the right time, when there are some people that are not empathetic, and I'm coming to you, Patrick, but I want to say this: there are people that are not empathetic. All right, they can't feel your pain, but when it happens to them, they feel it. And what you do in planting seeds, Fleming, is what you're telling them is the next time it hurts them with people they care about.
Very few of them don't really talk to me about politics that much. But every now and then want to feel like they have some information that they just have to tell me, like, what am I going to say to that? And then I just shut it down. I mean, I was like, just use common sense. Just think about it versus getting excited about what you think you want to hear. Because what you think you want to hear isn't always good for you.
Got you. Hey, I got to go. Paul, thank you for calling in. Right. I think it's the first time you've called in on the afternoon, in the morning show. Usually deal with you on the morning show. The evening show. Thank you, brother. Peace.
Right.
All right. Let's go to Patrick. Come on in. Brother Patrick, how are you doing?
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Talk to me, my brother.
One of the questions I have in the back of my mind is, would we have, if they had made sure that our representatives could not invest and take advantage of insider information. What it's starting to look like now is the people that represent me are more worried about their portfolio than they are about democracy.
Amen. And what's interesting, Patrick, is this is where I really hit up the old guard. You have to remember Nancy Pelosi's famous word when a progressive asked her that question specifically, and she said, "We are capitalists." And with a stern face, "We are capitalists." And they asked her that specific question that you asked, dear brother. Continue, Patrick.
Touching on the hate and anger that we have to talk about a lot, the same emotions and the same attitude that got us as president is what has kept the drug war going for 60 or 70 years.
Amen.
Drug war is absolutely toxic to this economy. It makes our civilization more dangerous. And the only reason why we're doing it is because we're trying to hurt people that need help. And that's exactly what we're doing now with the choice that we made with this president. There's a lot of people in our society that need help. And in a matter of weeks, we've turned around and we've started doing everything we can to hurt them. And it needs to stop. It's hurting everybody.
Patrick, when I don't know if you heard the part of my the piece that I just played when I spoke about hate. When I want to say this real quick, and then Philip, I'm coming to you in a second. What I pointed out is that when Kamala Harris and Trump were running together, right? And when you took the names off and you put what each person's platforms really was, everybody jumped by a large majority to Kamala's platform. That's what they wanted. But when you put the names attached to it, it was a 50-50 proposition. So when you attach the female of color onto the policies, it was a 50-50 proposition. When it was no name attached, it was near 80-something% of the people wanted. I think it was 80-something% of the people wanted the policies Kamala stood for. So that's why I pointed out. People always say it's the economy that got Trump elected. That's a lie. It's the economy. I mean, it's a bad economy that got Trump elected. It's a good economy that got Trump elected. And I always use the example of Obama being president before his time. And what I meant by that is if you take a look at the feelings of people back then, you had a lot of people that had the same prejudices or worse than they have today. But this one statement from a guy, when he was asked, "Who are you voting for?" And the wife turned around and asked the husband, "Who are we voting for, husband?" And they said, "We're voting for the end guy." Why did they still vote for the end guy? Because at that point in time, their personal economy was so bad that it was able to supersede their prejudice. When under the Biden economy, it was too good for them not to be able to supersede their prejudice. And that hits on to what you've just said, Patrick, in that, some people just want to hurt others if they feel it's not going to hurt them because they have not yet broken that mold that the people on the right pushes. That other is different than you. The other hurts you. All this bad stuff to make you feel like somebody else needs to be, it's to bring in that prejudice. And what if the economy was worse? If the economy was bad, she would have stood a better chance of winning. But anyway, Patrick, I got to go to Philip. Anything quickly that you want to say before?
Yeah. What is left of this democracy if our press is gone? If our justice system, our judicial system has no teeth left, if all the attorney generals are gone, and we have no right to protest, what exactly is left that defines us as a democracy? And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Patrick. To respond to what Patrick just said, if all of that is gone, there's no democracy. Right now, we have two levers to fight Donald Trump. That is the independent media, what we are doing to keep people informed, and the judiciary. The judiciary, believe as slow as the judiciary is, it is faster than what the independent media is doing, because the independent media's job comes at, well, I don't want to say it this way, but we have to work within election cycles. We have to prepare people for the next election cycle, which is what we intend to do. Thank you, Patrick. Let's go to Philip. Come on in, Philip.
Thank you.
Okay, Philip, you're on.
Okay, how you doing? Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir. I can hear you, brother.
Okay, yeah. Hi, I'm from. I've been here since 1999 in Texas, from California, and I'm an educator. Okay, and about this, racism has to be fixed for the young kids, because once people get, they have their racist views and they're pretty much older, you can pretty much forget it for the large percentage. Let me give you one example real quick. I know it's not that much time. As an educator, I was working in the suburbs right outside of Houston, the only African-American teacher at a high school. And there was one Caucasian student that had 2 Fs and 1 D. She had a D from me. Had a parent conference with the parents, the student, and the administrator, and I'm the only one there. And she had a D. And so I did the research, and I said, well, your daughter's is failing. It has 2 Fs. How come the 2 Fs teachers are not in here so we can try to get her intervention and see what's going on? Well, we're not concerned about the 2 Fs. We're concerned with the D. Remember, I'm the only African-American teacher, and they want us to look at the audit, the grades, and the lessons and stuff to make sure that that she deserved a D, and requested for me to change the grade. And I said, well, how come this same thing can't happen with the person with the same student with the 2 Fs? We're not concerned about them. Hey, and the administrator just looked at me, and I was going to ask the administrator later. I said, how come you couldn't pull the 2 F teachers in here so we can get it done? Well, that's not my job. And I just wanted to bring that up. Now, different for me, it was evident the way it was brought upon me that, hey, again, getting back to the beginning, it's the kids has to be the ones to make up their minds. They're not going to be victimized from their parents' point of view if it's a negative or a racist point of view. They have to be strong enough to stand up and say, hey, this mom, dad, or grandpa, or whatever, this is not right. When I move out here in the real world, I don't want to be thinking like you. And I just want to leave it like that.
Let me tell you, first of all, thank you for that story. And, I swear this is not pushing my book or anything. I wrote a book called Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. And that story that you just told about the difference in treatment on your job as a teacher, and you gave that good example, D versus 2 Fs, and the D person is the one that was pretty much asking to why is it that this person made a D when there's evidence that the student wasn't a good student in the first place. But I mean, that's an important thing that you talk about when it comes to you have to get folks from they are young to get out of this ridiculous framework of prejudice and racism. You're so right about that, and we ought to all be doing it. Here's the thing, though, and this is not good news. Donald Trump beat many of us to it, to continue the path of prejudice and racism. There are a group of young kids between the ages of 15 and 19 that are online. A lot of people consider them rejects, but these are gamers. These are all these group of kids that do these things that Donald Trump and his caustic manner and etc. has infiltrated that group. So where we thought we were making progress with the young, just as you mentioned, where we have to start fomenting the change of minds there. We have Donald Trump and his ilk, Elon Musk and all those guys that control social media, etc., programming these folks to bring back the hate. I think personally, it is, and Paul, not Paul, but Glenn Ryan is going to love me saying this. I think it has been a dereliction of duty of the Democratic Party for not going into these niches and being the counterweight to prevent that from happening. Because in the past, when we had segregation, a lot of that could be understood. People didn't live together and realize that they're all the same. But now, where we have integration, we shouldn't allow fallacies to create that modal, which is exactly what you speak about as well, Philip. So, first of all, thank you for the call. Give me an opportunity to say what I just said, and we have a lot of work to do. Anything else you want to say, Philip?
Nope. And I know your time is short at the end of this thing. One more question: What time is your day? Your evening? And is it Central Time? What time does it come on?
Yeah, Central Time. I'm here in Houston. It comes on at 3:00 Central Time, and that one is on the internet. You just go to politicsdoneright.com and you'll find out everything about both of these shows. I have everything listed there and their details, so just check it out. And let me just also say, if you need to reach me directly, you can go to kpft@politicsdoneright.com. kpft@politicsdoneright.com. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
my brother. Listening. Absolutely. Anyway, folks, we have time for probably one more call. 713-526-5738. Again, that is 713-526-5738. Paul Fleming says, my boss's child was repeating what he heard from his father in the workplace, and the owner still allowed the child to come to the workplace because my boss said that she would talk to the father. Double standard many a times. While the U.S. grapples with an egg shortage caused by avian flu, eggs remain plentiful and affordable in Canada. There are reasons for that, including that egg farms there tend to be smaller. And there are other reasons, good regulations. You know, Canada and Europe, they don't have the problems with the food supply that we have here in America. Anyway, folks, we have about 5 more minutes. 713-526-5738, extension number 2. 713-526-5738. Now, when we hear Patrick speak about, Patrick sounded the alarm. When we lose the media and we lose the courts, what do we have? We no longer have a democracy. And he's absolutely right about that. But what we have to maintain, folks, is independent media, independent thinking. And the good thing about it is, as CNN and all the others have laid off their key reporters. I mean, we have MSNBC getting rid of Joyanne Reid because they give all kinds of excuses, but the reality is she was too critical of the Trump administration, and she was too hard and harsh on the Trump administration. They got rid of Acosta from CNN. Why? Again, because he was too tough on the Trump administration, etc. But in doing so, and I want you all to listen well, in doing so, they have unleashed those two very strong reporters. And how have they done that? These reporters went on to Substack, the same place that we are as well. We have a lot of Substack subscribers as well here that I'm looking at, in fact, on the screen right now as well. They went on to Subscribe, a completely independent channel away from mainstream media. And you know what happened? Both of them, in one day, they got a full audience, both on their live programs and on the programs that they give at Substack with the articles that they're able to write. So the silver lining, Patrick, my brother Patrick, is that as the corporate media starts to shed those who are very much put up the resistance to the plutocracy, there are other platforms that these guys are raising. And by having an Acosta on Substack, by having a Joyanne Reid on Substack, by having the Contrarians on Substack, all of these guys are folks that have left mainstream media. By having them all, what it has allowed is for us to grow the independent media. Nobody tells Joyanne what to write about. Nobody tells Acosta what to write about. Nobody tells Egberto what to write about or discuss. And in doing so, they may not have realized that they have unleashed independence. And independence is a good thing. Let me throw it to the studio before I close out.
Oh, nothing here. I've already done my rant for the day. Jack, what you got?
Let's team up for America.
That's right. Ex-MAGA, welcome here.
There you go. There you go. Hey, talking about ex-MAGA, welcome here. Brian, where are you? You always close out our show.
I know. We were looking for him, and we hadn't heard from Harry this morning either.
Or Harry.
A minute left, so.
Yeah, so you can't call now, guys. But Brian, you know we love you. Harry, you know we love you, and all of that. Brian, I think Brian didn't call because Brian is slowly becoming a progressive, okay?
No, he's starting to wake up. He's going, oh, wait a minute. I didn't vote to close down the VA. I didn't vote to fire all those people. I didn't vote for these tariffs. I didn't vote for Doge. Yeah, but you got them anyway.
And you know what, folks? You got a place to land. We love you all. And I'm not being facetious. We want you. We honestly want you. Together, we want to take back this country. And we mean that. Anyway, folks, look, thank you all for listening. The rest of the show, videos, etc., that I couldn't play because of time is at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. You can also write me directly at kpft@politicsdoneright.com. kpft@politicsdoneright.com. Thank you, Howard and Jack, for the wonderful work all of us work on together. Anyway, my name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view.